Hey, good Tuesday, everyone. Welcome back to Between Bells here on Cheddar. Dr. Anthony Fauci says approximately 20 million people could be vaccinated by the start of 2021. However, we're just a couple days away from New Year's, and only 2 million people have received that COVID-19 vaccine. So why are we so behind schedule? Well, joining us now to discuss the vaccine distribution and so much more is David Dodd, Chairman and CEO of GeoVax. David, good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. So I guess the larger question is why do you think we haven't vaccinated more people at this point? Why are we so far behind that 20 million marker?
I think what we have achieved is excellent, because in less than 12 months and 10 months, in fact, we've been able to bring forward a vaccine which has never been replicated in the history of the world in public health. I mean, it's the greatest accomplishment ever. The challenge of then supply and distribution is always sort of the overlooked, unsung heroes of any type of challenge. World War II was won not just because of battles, but because of getting supplies where they needed to be, when they needed to be there, to be put to the appropriate use. That's the same thing with vaccines. I think the 20 million number was never a practical number. I think it was perhaps a hope more than anything. And it was an aspiration. There's nothing to be highly critical about, other than it made many of us think that, gosh, there's going to be 20 million delivered and people vaccinated by the end of the year. In reality, it was unlikely to occur. It is not going to occur. And we will have probably the June timeframe that is now being talked about as having all those vaccinated in the United States who are willing to and accepting and interested in being vaccinated. I think that is a practical target and a real target. I think the 20 million was never a practical target, and unfortunately we all became aligned to thinking that might happen.
Yeah, David, you bring up a lot of really good points there. I mean, we forget we've never had a rollout of a vaccine at this distribution, at this scale, really in global history of something like this. So there was obviously bound to be a few hiccups. Are you surprised at all about how the process is shaking out so far? I mean, you're absolutely right. The fact that we got the vaccine as fast as we did is amazing. But are you surprised at the rollout so far?
I'm not surprised. In fact, one of my colleagues at work at GeoVax had his vaccination just yesterday. So we're seeing people, locally, I'll put it that way, that we interact with. And so we are seeing it get out there. I think it is most critical and important that we think not on the large numbers of 20 million, 50 million, but what are the population sizes that are the most at risk? That's what we really need to be focused on. The fact that we're seeing a lot of elected officials who are young, who are not in high-risk groups, lining up to get the vaccinations is really disappointing, to say the least. We need to make sure that the frontline workers, those in nursing homes, those who have comorbidity conditions, the vast majority, over 90-something% of people who unfortunately have passed away due to COVID-related type of illness, had some type of comorbidity, some underlying condition. Those are the ones we need to be addressing and going after those numbers. It'd be better if we were to be communicated about by the public health sector of how many people are we talking about that fit into those cohort populations.
Yeah, David, you bring up some great points there. I want to talk about the vaccines in particular, because we know the AstraZeneca vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, so many other ones are really either out there right now or in their late stage trials. We got some good news today about Novavax's vaccine. That's essentially the latest to enter in the late stage trials. And it too, like a lot of the other ones, doesn't have to be stored at those ultra cold temperatures. So no doubt for rural areas, this is some really good news. How optimistic are you that we're going to have quite a bit of these vaccines in 2021 for different people to take?
I think the accomplishment in 2021 will be the implementation or the achievement of different vaccines, not only coming from people such as Novavax, but also you'll see the clinical beginnings of products coming from companies such as GeoVax, hopefully. And that's because these are different technologies. They're not as fast to get to manufacturing, which is the real benefit that we've seen with what Pfizer and Moderna have. But what they do have is they have well-validated safety profiles. They can be used for different cohort populations. They require minimal to no refrigeration. They are likely to be single dose. We're working on a product that is single dose for universal coronavirus, meaning not just COVID-19, but COVID-20, COVID-21, cousins of what we're dealing with, variants, those types of things. We need broader immunity and protection. We need products that are single dose, no refrigeration, that are durable. But, these that have first come out, we needed them to be able to stop this and sort of halt it and put a stop while we're bringing these others forward.
Yeah, let's talk about what you guys are doing at GeoVax, David, because you guys announced back in October that you're working with the National Institutes of Health to support their COVID-19 vaccine. I'm curious where you guys are at right now in that process.
Well, we're in our final testing of animals. We have not received the significant amount of funding that other companies have. Otherwise, we would probably be into the clinic today, just as you're seeing with Novavax, because these are expensive processes to go through and to get to. And it's amazing. And when one is funded with hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, you can accelerate and go much faster. And the decisions had to be made. And I'm not going to criticize the decisions that were made, because they were made thoughtful, and the focus was placed to where people felt they needed to be placed. We continue to work very closely with the NIH. We're completing our animal testing. We're putting in place our plans for the clinical testing. We do use an established, well-validated technology. It's actually licensed out of the NIH. It was developed many years ago. There are existing vaccines that utilize this technology, and it has certain potential benefits of being able to deliver single dose, very durable, validated safety, and minimal to no refrigeration. And we also can apply it to various cohort populations. Those are at highest risk. Takes longer to get there. I'll say it right up front. So it's slower to get to manufacturing because we have to grow it in cells, whereas RNA, such as Pfizer, Moderna, can go directly into that. You get much faster. So that's why we need a variety of these types of products. So the Novavax, the GeoVax products, those that are coming in the second wave are going to be absolutely critical in a longer term, and especially those that give you broader immunity and prevention.
Absolutely. David Dodd, thanks so much for joining us and giving us your insight. He's the chairman and CEO over at GeoVax. And coming up next, everyone, here on Between Bells, the first place in the U.S. to report a coronavirus death has now received their initial doses of the vaccine. So what that means for nursing homes when Between Bells returns after this.